Okay, right at the start of our night, Nightshade decides to join the party, as represented by Starcast here. So we had a unique situation where somebody who wanted to join the game didn't realize they needed to do a certain react in the Discord channel in order to join the game officially. So we decided we would cycle him in last minute, and I just rolled the wheel of every single remaining character, so he had a 50, or more like a 75 chance of being a Skylander, 25 chance of being a villain, and he got the villain Nightshade. So we suddenly have a fourth villain in play. I actually almost revealed that earlier by saying we had one more villain than last time. 4 villains in play this game. There were 3 last time. And so that immediately helps out the villains a lot. Every single villain is a huge boon to them. That's a huge difference. So suddenly we've got 4 against 10, and night 1 is upon us. We only have a couple of nighttime Skylander abilities at this time. Stealth Elf has the ability to survey a character. Now, there's some important things to note here, so I'm going to pull our characters back for a minute. So, move them away, move them away. Here we go. Okay, so at night, every character is inside their house asleep. There are characters with nighttime abilities. To use those abilities, they leave their house, go to the target player's house, and return. Stealth Elf does not go inside a house. She surveys the house, if that's from the rooftop, from over in the forest, who knows. So she watches it, and so she does not trigger abilities that get triggered if you go in a house. That's important because she surveys Trigger Happy night 1. Trigger Happy's ability is Trigger Happy. He will shoot anybody who comes into his house to use an ability on him. That includes Blackout, that includes Spotlight, and then any villain. If the villains try to kill Trigger Happy, one of them will die at random. I'll spin the wheel and whoever gets picked is dead. So that is Trigger Happy's overpowered ability. And Stealth Elf watches him. All that does for Stealth Elf is really show that nobody came and visited him this night. This first night, Trigger Happy did not leave, and nobody came. That's all Stealth Elf can tell. If a player comes, so we've got little Sheep Creep here. If Sheep Creep comes up over to Trigger Happy, she will see that the player went. She will not know who that player is. So she won't know it's Sheep Creep specifically. She just knows that an ability is being used. So it could be Blackout, could be Spotlight, could be Villain. You don't know. Evidence in the morning of if Trigger Happy suddenly had a bad effect, such as with last game we had Wolfgang in play, and characters would lose their voice. They would be unable to speak, they'd only be able to emote in the chat. In that case, she would probably have a pretty good idea that, hey, that guy who came and visited Trigger Happy, that was probably Wolfgang. So that is how that scenario works. So she watches Trigger Happy, and everything's pretty dandy for those two that night. Sprocket, her ability is up next. She has the ability Tripwire, which was actually a player from the game 1 had this idea for her. And she kind of acts as a secondary Spotlight, not as powerful, but still pretty darn good. She sets an alarm at the front threshold of a door, and so anybody who tries to open the door of someone else's house or enter that house, except Nightshade, actually, it does not affect Nightshade, I'll explain why in a minute, she will then, it'll trigger to anybody. It does not wake up the player inside. It does not alert Sprocket. Sprocket won't know if her tripwire is triggered, and the sleeper will remain blissfully unaware. What it does is when villains come to do their shenanigans, it scares them away. And it also scares away any heroic person. So if Stealth Elf's fine, she doesn't try to cross the threshold. But if Blackout were to come check on Dreams, he would get scared away by the tripwire. So she could accidentally protect a villain in this case. So she, after having the realization that she is a proactive player, and last game she was punished pretty quickly for being a proactive vocal player, she plays it safe. She's like, I don't know who any of these other Mabu are. I'm not going to trust anybody yet. I don't know enough. I'm playing it safe. I'm protecting my own house. So Sprocket is safe in her house tonight. The villains gather in their secret lair to discuss their plans. So we have a few abilities at play. We already told you Chef Pepperjack's ability and Dreamcatcher's. Their abilities aren't really going to be as relevant for the majority of the game. Nightshade, I need to go ahead and explain, because his is immediately relevant. He has the ability to, quote-unquote, steal from another player. Nightshade's a character who kind of goes by his own whims. He's a Doom Raider, yes, but he's got his own agenda. So he goes to a different house every night and sneaks inside. If somebody is home, he will notice and he won't rob the house. If at any point a house is vacated, he'll know, and he will take that opportunity to steal whatever imaginary items are inside. His ability, short and simple, is to know if a character leaves their house. It's kind of like Stealth Elf's. He won't know if somebody else comes and visits. He'll just know if that player specifically has left their house at any point that night. It basically kind of gives them a little bit of a forewarning before they try to enter a house. This could be really helpful because he does not trigger happy. He doesn't actually enter a house. He just checks if anybody's inside, like through a window or something. And so he won't trigger happy if he's home. He won't know it's trigger happy. He will not know what the character in the house is. He'll just know that somebody's there. It can also help play it safe for the villains making their kill, because Stealth Elf, because she's over here actually watching trigger happy, is not home. And so if the villains try to go kill Stealth Elf, they'll just find an empty house and nothing will happen. Okay, now that that's been explained, we'll get to Sheep Creep's ability here later, because that will come into play. First, we want to start off with Chef Pepperjack here. He's got some pro experience running restaurants and filling out orders, and so he immediately slaps down a spreadsheet and starts jotting every hint they've got. They've taken notice of Night Shift, Jetvac, and Jetvac's over here. Night Shift, Jetvac, and Stealth Elf's claims of which games they were in previously. These two being in a game last game, this guy being not. And he's ready to tally every tidbit of information. There are several dangerous Skylanders for the villains, evidenced by Trigger Happy sitting over there. All right, Sheep Creep. So discussions still happen a little bit at night, and I think the villains had started up their lair before night officially set. No, he was in. Anyway, Sheep Creep is really quite the charmer. He is like just fit right into this Mabu Skylander group. He's talking, he's fitting right in, he's making jokes, and he makes a slip up. Just briefly, he mixed up which chat he was in, because this is Discord. We have the Game 2 chat, and there's the Villains Lair chat, where only these 4 players can see. And Sheep Creep says something about Chill Bill not being in play. Chill Bill being a villain that was in play last game. And he realizes he'd said that in the wrong chat and quickly deleted the message and freaks out Kaboom over here. And they're like, holy crap, we just skirted around tragedy right there. But thankfully, it didn't seem like any other Skylanders noticed, so they're taking a breath and feeling like, okay, be real careful from here on. And then Dreamcatcher realizes that because of her ability, if Blackout spots her, she's pretty darn safe. And so she wants to claim to be a Skylander who the other Skylanders will not want to risk killing. And so she realizes her best bet for that is Spotlight. Now, right now, the villains have no idea if and who all could be in play. We know the dogs are not in play. The dogs, Funny Bone and Hot Dog, their only ability is to know who each other are. So those 2 players start the game off knowing who each other are, so that they can kind of be secure in that, and then if one outs themselves as a Skylander, the other can back them up. So those are the only two confirmed characters not in play, because they have to be in the game together. Dreamcatcher is not jumping out on this idea. She's just pitching the idea that, hey, if I'm going to claim to be a Skylander when it comes down to it, Spotlight is probably the best. Now, the fact that she said this early is really helpful, because as the warden, I will remove any character that somebody claims to be. You can even be a Skylander claiming to be a different Skylander to hide the fact that they have an ability they don't want the villains to realize they have. But if somebody's claiming to be another character, I take that off the wheel of chance, and then it cannot be the warden's gift. I will not reveal whether or not that character is in play. That way it's fair. Okay, so those seeds start to get planted, and then they start to discuss Sheep Creep's ability. Sheep Creep has the ability Wool Over Eyes. It's a play on the words of pulling the wool over your eye. His ability is literally to pick a character who then has to act suspicious of another character, and they cannot reveal that this was a effect on them until the following day. It's a pretty powerful ability, but it is a tricky ability to implement. The players in this game were all excellent. They were like, yeah, cool, I get it, I'm gonna run with it. And this is where, as a player of this game, the goal isn't just to win, it's to have fun and tell a silly narrative. So they start to realize how powerful Sheep Creep's ability is, and they have the epiphany that if they kill whoever Sheep Creep hoodwinks that following night, no one will ever know that Sheep Creep is in play. So they then decide their first victim. They go for Sprocket. I say he because I was a player. Sprocket made the right call right off the bat, tripwiring her own house, because they were like, this player... Now, okay, actually, back up a bit. So when I mentioned Sheep Creep, accidentally mentioned Chill Bill, there were two reasons they went after Sprocket right away. Sprocket had been saying some smart things early on. Two, she was one of two players active when Sheep Creep slipped up. And so those two players who were active were immediately made targets because they wanted them silenced before they realized or mentioned what happened to any other players. The second player was Jetvac. Sprocket and Jetvac are our first two targets. Well, they go to kill Sprocket, get scared off by an alarm. Oh no! Now, there's a slight drawback that immediately the villains now know Sprocket is in play. And their good thing is there were no deaths this first night. What did happen, though, is Sheep Creep, knowing that Sprocket was tripwired, decided to hoodwink Jetvac, their target number 2, into pointing blame at Sprocket. So we've got a lot of pieces moving here already. Nightshade ahead of time checked out Jetvac. Jetvac was home. Jetvac's ability is a voting ability, which I'll explain here in this next vote as we get into day 2. So we wake up and all players are present. That is pretty spectacular for game 1. That's actually really, really impressive, because that is for Sprocket, a 1 out of 14 chance to have gotten that right off the bat. She can absolutely protect a villain by accident, and then she has fair game to protect herself. So yeah, 14 players, she picked the one the villains went after. The Warden reveals that Snapshot is not in play. Snapshot's ability is that if he reveals his identity, the Warden will confirm it. It's proof of ID. Chef plays a very clever little trick, and he congratulates, when we see that everybody's here, nobody died, congratulates Spotlight that nobody is dead, kind of acting like he's presuming that Spotlight is in play, when in fact he knows that it was Sprocket. That was actually a very subtle, very clever trick to kind of settle himself as a non-villain Mabu, because in the mind of whoever is Sprocket, they see, oh, this player is assuming it's Spotlight when it was in fact me. And that is a very clever way to throw off suspicion. So I wanted to shout that out. And then everybody starts to check if there are any villain effects in play. Like I mentioned before, Wolfgang was one of the villains last time, and every day there would be a Skylander unable to speak, except for the one time Wolfgang did it to himself. So, and yes, absolutely, most of the villains' abilities can be used on themselves, including Sheep Creep here. So, they start checking, teasing. Now, because we are 14 players, all in different time zones, not everybody's active at the same time. So people are starting to get suspicious. Oh, this person's active, or this is because they're in the villain chat, or whatnot. And then Jetvac, kind of unfortunately, when not too many players are out, suggests that perhaps this rocket over there is Wolfgang when Wolfgang's being discussed. No one really catches on except for Dreamcatcher, who's like, yeah, that's what he's supposed to be saying. Do you guys want to notice more of this? Not so directly, but that was her aim in mentioning, oh yeah, Wolfgang, what do you think of that? But unfortunately for the villains, it kind of just gets brushed over, and Jetvac just didn't have much more opportunity. Now, with Sheep Creep's ability, it is specified that you can't be overly obvious that, oh my goodness, this person is suddenly suspicious out of nowhere, because then people are going to start realizing, oh, that's obviously fake. You're not actually suspicious. So you want to be mostly believable when you throw out suspicion. All right, so not a whole lot happened in that day phase. That day phase was one of our shorter ones. And then we move on to the voting phase, where Terrafin's ability comes into play. Terrafin's ability is $5, which is a funny way of saying that he has the ability to manipulate votes. First, he has to lend $5 to another player. And what that means is that he matches whatever vote they make. He'll learn what their vote is. And that puts him at risk that if he gives his $5 to a villain, he is then backing up that villain's vote. But in the next vote, or whenever vote he wants, it can be whenever he wants, the character he gave $5 to then has to give that back to Terrafin, and they then have to match Terrafin's vote. It's a tit-for-tat situation. And he gives his $5 to Sprocket over there. So Sprocket's just getting all the love this game. He does that, and then the villains collaborate, and they're like, who do we vote? I don't know. Who do we go for? Terrafin, I guess. Truly, that's about how it went. They just picked somebody. There was no rhyme or reason to it. Just anybody that wasn't them. They just combined their votes, and poor Terrafin had 4 votes against him, where, frankly, most of the Skylanders abstained. There were 3 votes against Sprocket. I'm sorry, Sprocket, you were just immediately proactive, even though you were trying not to be. And then there were a couple other single votes to other characters, but there were mostly not too many votes being thrown around at this point. So, poor Terrafin is taken to the cliff, and that's why we got this big old tree over here. The cliff is kind of the story device where whoever is voted is thrown off the cliff and is sent into the mist. What that means is that their identity is not revealed, but the tree at the edge of the cliff has purple leaves that will turn red if it's a villain, blue if it's a Skylander. No, I do not actually have color-changing leaves. That is just some old terrarium flowers that I stuck in a snake tree thing that I got from my snake. So, Terrafin gets thrown off the cliff. They have no idea what his character is, but they do find out he is a Skylander. Before that happened, though, before he got thrown off, Jetvac got the chance to use his ability. Jetvac's ability is hero at heart, and he can swoop in and save a character thrown to the cliff before they disappear into the mist if he so chooses. He can only do this once, and it reveals who he is because only Jetvac can do this. And Jetvac passes up the opportunity. And if you haven't already noticed, Jetvac has been a target of the villains. He's not aware that he is already being preyed upon, and that this is going to be the only chance he gets. More on that in part 2. Thank you so much for watching this. If you're new to this, you can just ask me if you want to join the Discord or just stick around for the rest of this campaign. A lot happened, so I'm breaking this up into lots of little parts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope my players are enjoying the beginning of this recap, and stay tuned. I'll keep working on it as I have time.